Yeah, and now my goal is my aim is really to just inform people, my age, and really tell them, like, get to them, like, hey, look, this is not the answer. Like,
Maybe,
honestly, 'cause
yeah,
I have so many content creator friends that are just trying so hard to be like big, you know,
yeah,
and for what?
yeah, exactly. I think,
If and a lot of them, their content's good. They'll post pictures of themselves, like traveling the world or whatever. But like, there's no message. There's no like blanket story that they're trying to tell. It's just like,
yeah.
for what? Like,
How do you get there? How do you get to the point where you're telling this story and the message? Like, I have my thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts. And like, how do you create meaning? Like, what do you do to bring that to your work?
What's up, friends, awoken dudes, fellow earthlings? Welcome back to the podcast. Today's guest is Alex Gao. I actually sat down and had this conversation with him about 6 months ago. At the time when I sat down to talk with Alex, he was on a break from social media, which would not seem that unusual if you talk to anybody that is in the wellness space. That's kind of what we're doing here, talking to you about things you can do to enhance your life. I live my life, I'm trying to suck less. I do things that have helped me in some way, and I either find someone that's done something similar and has a better knowledge set than I do, and I share that with you, or I talk to you from my personal experiences. Social media breaks are just a part of this. But what's exceptional about this social media break is that Alex, a young budding filmmaker, director of photography who had just graduated college, had racked up nearly 100,000 followers on Instagram by doing unique edits and styles and different cuts and transitions in camera. And he seemed like he was living what you would call the dream for a content creator. And Alex and I were corresponding, and he had talked to me about wanting to shut down the account, which he eventually did. And I immediately felt really bad for encouraging him to make the decision to pull the plug on his newfound fame. Since our talk, Alex has come out of hiatus and now has his account again, but it has more depth. It is less cheeky and trendy, and Alex is really trying to live a life of purpose. This young man blows my mind, and I'm honored and privileged to call him a friend. And I think this talk could really help anybody who is trying to make it in the content creation space and you're struggling to not identify with the numbers attached to your name. Sit back and enjoy this conversation as much as I enjoyed having it, and thank you so much.
Yeah. So I just want to get right into like why I asked you to come here and the deciding factor. One, I liked your work and I liked being friends with you on social media. But when you said something to me about deleting your social media account that had like 70,000, 80,000 followers, and you said, I think I'm going to delete my account, I'm pretty sure I was encouraging. I was like, go for it. Then you did. And I was like, there's got to be some kind of like meaning to this. It's deeper than metrics. It's the exact opposite of what everyone works for and what anyone else would do in that situation. So if you can kind of just like pick up where I'm like leaving off.
yeah, I've gotten so many questions about this. So if anyone else asks me after this, I'll just direct them to this video. But basically, well, just to be clear, I didn't actually delete it. I just deactivated it. It still exists in a cloud somewhere. It's archived in a server. But I don't know. I never wanted to be an influencer, basically. And I didn't really realize that when my account was first starting to take off. And yeah, it was just the pressure, the anxiety that came with it. I couldn't take it. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Literally, so I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to shut it down for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. I know you had like a partnership with Epidemic Sound, or did you reach out to them and say, hey, I'm going to shut this down, or did you just ghost them?
I just completely ghosted everybody, basically. Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, this just isn't for me. And well, I mean, the affiliate links, they still live on my YouTube channel. So, and if they want to reach out to me, they still can. Like obviously my email still exists, but my Instagram account is, AWOL. So
That's so awesome.
yeah.
I told my son that I was going to talk to you today, and he didn't know who you were, but I told him about like that story, and he's so aggravated by it.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people were. A lot of people who have never been in a position like that, I can see why they would be like just confused. They ask me like, "Oh, wasn't that the dream?" And I tell them, "No, not for me. It isn't."
Yeah, you have to. So I'm on this journey to get to where you got and decided I don't like this. And I can say from like, I don't know how long it took you of posting on Instagram to get to the thousands of people. But for me, engaging with people and building a community and having like 178 subscribers on YouTube and 20 people that constantly interact with me, that feels like a lot of responsibility. And a part of me is afraid of growing beyond where I'm at and not being able to like have the personal connection. And I'm wondering if there's any. If did you have that feeling? Did you think like were you overwhelmed? Like were you wanting to talk to people and you couldn't? Like what was that dichotomy?
Oh yeah, for sure. I felt like once I really started growing, I kind of really lost touch of things that were truly important to me. The relationships, the just that community that I had previously built upon. When I first started my account, it was a lot smaller, and I had the time to talk to people. And when I started growing, I just kind of lost touch of that, and I just spent more time off of social media. Ironically, as the bigger the account got, the more time I spent off of it. I would just jump on there just to post, and then I was off of it.
Yeah.
So
So were you the kind of person that would go to your phone when you go to the bathroom immediately? Were you picking it up like almost like subconsciously, like a smoker picks up a cigarette? Or did you have a distinct disconnection between you and being on the phone? Were you like, I'm only getting on when I'm going to post, and then you just never checked after that? You never checked to see how posts were doing?
well, I mean, when I first started, I was on my phone all the time. I was having these engagements with these people, with this community that I started, this small community, and once it got bigger, it was more of a toxic relationship, and I got on the platform to post because I felt obligated to.
Yeah.
And also, all the financial gain kind of plays into it because obviously I was an ambassador for, a music licensing company. I felt like I had to keep that going.
Yeah. Are you under contract with them?
No contract,
Okay.
but
That's good.
it's money that pays the bills, and I've definitely taken a financial hit from just completely jumping ship. But I'm a happier person.
Yeah, that's what matters,
Exactly.
Yeah. That's so Tim Ferriss has this thing about starting a podcast or starting any business. And one of the things that I took away from that talk that I've carried with me for years and in every endeavor I take on, but he talks about being aware of the machine that you're creating, and you don't want to create a machine that actually becomes a prison. And I think that more people should hear that message because everyone's chasing after getting like numbers and followers. I hear a lot of people saying they want to grow, but they don't know why. And when you're just focused on getting numbers and expanding, you can very easily create like some kind of prison cell for yourself, which I think is very important if anyone's listening to this to hear you talking about how you weren't expecting to have this growth. And then you got there and you're like, whoa, wait a second. This is like not what I wanted. Or I don't know if you had thoughts. Did you have thoughts about what it would be like to have a large following before you did?
Zero, like absolutely zero thoughts. A lot of what I posted during that renaissance, like during that time when it started to actually pick up, was very experimental. It was never stuff that I wanted to continue doing for a living. So the posts that blew up were okay. So I think it was I was on my skateboard with a camera, and it was just some random video that I put zero thought into that completely blew up, and people just ate that shit up. Yeah. They're like, I want to see more of this formula that you're doing, and for a while I kept it up, but obviously it's not. I'm the curious Asian. I want to try new things. I want to move on.
Yeah.
That's not what I wanted to do forever. So I definitely did build a box around myself doing this. So should I ever, grow again, that'd be cool. But I want to make sure that it's for an overall message that I'm actually passionate about.
Yeah, that's what you're doing right now. I have not released an episode, but it's enhanced and enriched my life in such a way that I don't even care if it succeeds or has like monster numbers. I value having you here. So first, thank you. but I'm glad that I've learned that before like something happened and I accidentally went viral. I had a video in my early 20s that had like a couple 100,000 views, and I didn't know. I wasn't checking or trying to be an influencer. I just was putting up silly videos. One of them was me trying to give my grandfather a kiss. But I posted that video and then moved from Florida to Indiana. Point of the story is I did not check YouTube for years because I was only posting videos of my son to share with my family. But had I known that that video had that much traction, I probably would have done a bunch of really stupid shit.
Yeah, you would have tried to capitalize on it.
Right, yeah.
You know.
And like not even had the presence of mind or the awareness to be like, what am I creating? And I'm like just living to serve other people, which is poetic and like there's a Buddhist aspect to it. But as a creator, that I think takes away a lot of the freedom of creativity. Like you were just saying, like there's no more reason to explore or to be curious.
Yeah, for sure. And the first thing I did, after I deactivated my account was I asked myself, like, why did I start in the first place? And I spent a lot of time watching the older videos that I made, when I first started, and comparing them to the more recent stuff. And I was kind of disappointed in myself, like the more recent stuff. I'm like, this is garbage. It's like it's well produced, but it doesn't touch me in any way.
Yeah.
There's no meaning behind it. I simply did it because I knew that the algorithm would pick it up and that my sponsor would like it.
Yeah.
Not because it was something that I cared about.
Yeah, it's really awesome that you learned that before you got too deep into it, before you had like a family or like an apartment. I don't know where you live or whatever. You said you took a financial hit. Have you had to figure out other ways to make finances work for you?
I mean, yeah, I'm working more hours at my job.
Yeah.
I have. I'm an editor for a office on my college campus.
Okay.
So I'm living, I'm good. I'm doing just fine.
Yeah.
I can't spend money on stupid shit like I used to, but
that's the American dream, man.
I'm happy.
You gave it all up.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So, going forward with you're not going to stop making films. Like what is you could, I guess, or you're not going to stop making.
No,
right?
never.
What does a perfect scenario look like for you in like the next 5 or 10 years? Have you thought about that?
Well, ideally, I would love to make a living making content that I actually care about.
Yeah.
Not just stupid social media short form videos.
Yeah.
I actually want to get a message out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, yeah.
Devil's advocate here. Why not continue doing the garbage or fluff? I only say garbage because I think they're phenomenal, but the fluff pieces, if you will, why not continue putting them onto Instagram and then have your YouTube or somewhere else be the place where you're getting out the message? Did you think about that? Have you thought about it?
Yeah, well, one, it's a waste of time. Mm-hmm. I'm not a quick editor by any means. That kind of stuff just takes me a lot of time. That's just who I am. But also, I've always respected my audience, and I want to be honest with how I feel. I don't want to pump out garbage to them.
Yeah,
if
that's
I
fair.
feel that it's not good content, I'm not going to give it to them.
Yeah.
That's
an amazing answer. I knew you were an awesome guy, but that's an awesome answer. Dude, I took social media off my main phone, and I can say that I'm significantly happier not having it. So I think I don't have an answer, and I don't have like a really good guess, but there's something weird happening to everyone around me and watching people. Like I didn't grow up with social media. So it's super interesting to see someone who I imagine you're probably a decade younger than me to like have the presence of mind. And I've heard people speculating saying that your age and like my kids' generation, they're 11 and 12 for some context, but they're going to like take a huge step back from social because what you're saying, it's like you were essentially just making content for advertisers. You were like living inside of a commercial.
And that's basically what it became.
Yeah.
It started as a passion project. I'd make my own videos and telling my own stories, and then it just became, every video I was following the same formula, and then I would have a song from said music licensing company, and at the bottom of the description would be a link that people could click on, and then they would sign up, and I would get money for it.
Yeah.
And it just became a giant ad for these various companies.
That's so weird. Do you think that the strategy one could implement for creation is to have a target number in mind, like I'm going to make this and I'm not going to compromise, but I'm going to work on getting to this number. Like if someone needs to make, $70,000 a year, like, do you think someone should figure out how to reverse engineer to get to that point and then dump the growth process? I don't know if I'm making sense with where I'm going.
No, that makes sense.
Okay.
Like limiting yourself to.
Yeah, instead of like the constant pursuit of more, because there is an aspect of content creation where if you want to do it professionally, like I've got clients and that's how I make money, but there's stuff I want to do, and if it got really successful, so I'm afraid listening to you. I'm like, what's going to happen if something I make as a passion works? Like, how do I keep the passion up? How do I get from zero to a sustainable amount of people buying into like my brand or my films or whatever? And how do I do it in a way that doesn't make me delete everything like you did? How do I do that? How does one, if they're listening, like what advice would you give to yourself now? Like, what are you doing now that you know?
Man, well, I will say, even though I'm off social media, a lot of people think that I'm just not doing anything with my life. They assume that I'm just sitting on my ass, and that's not the case. I've been busier than ever as of lately, and me and my friends are actually working on short films, like as we speak.
Awesome.
It's not reaching the light of my Instagram stories, but I'm still making stuff, but I'm doing it for myself. Yeah. We're doing it for ourselves. We're not doing it for a promotional video. It's purely for our own gain.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody else.
That's crazy, right?
That's why I started.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, I started making these Lego stop motion videos when I was like 12.
Yeah.
And when I was 12 years old, I had pretty much no friends.
Mm-hmm.
It was just I did it for my own personal enjoyment. My only audience was my parents, and maybe like one kid at school, like in the gym locker room.
Yeah. Those were the days, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started out doing the same stuff. I did a little stop motion, but it wasn't super technical. Like I figured out that you could take pictures on like a handy cam, and I would do like dancing stuffed animals and use it for intros for, I had a thing called the John Kuhn Show in the garage of my parents' house. But those 6 people that I would hand copy from one VHS recorder to the other to go and go knock on their door and be like, the new video is out. There's something that's lost with what you were doing that you got rid of. You don't hand deliver. There's nothing tactile there. I don't know. It's so awesome. I'm just so blown away that you made that decision, and I'm so interested in it. So thank you for talking about it.
Yeah, no worries. And honestly, will I open it back up, the account? Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm just living right now. I have a lot of Buddhist practices in the way I, go about my art. I see, for me, detachment is a pretty big thing. Mm-hmm. If you want to keep innovating, you can't hold on to the past.
Yeah.
And you really just, I forget what you call it. It's like when they do the art in the sand.
Yeah, I was just thinking the sand mandalas, right? Where they intricately make these mandalas and they're beautiful, and then they go and dump it into the river.
Yeah, or the waves come and just completely take it away. That's how I see art. After I've made something and it's been put out there, it's time to move on.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to look at it, and I try to look at it that way as much as I can, and I'm getting better at it now that I'm in a position where I'm making money freelancing. But up until the point that I was making money freelancing, I felt like everything I did had to be the thing that was going to work. And I wasn't even really thinking about the repercussions of what that may or may not entail. So to have that disconnection from art, I think everyone should have something like that. So it's really crazy. I think of the sand mandalas a lot, honestly. So that's super cool that you just brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say I was in a hotel in Portland, Oregon when I was 19 or 20, and it was my first time going out west, and I opened up this drawer in a hotel, and instead of having the the New Testament there, they had the Way of Buddha. And it was the teachings of Buddha, and the first page was talking about being like writings in the river, the rock, and sand, and that's the philosophy of the Buddhist way of thought. And you should be like writings in the river, meaning that the writings they don't have any permanence, and the writings are your thoughts. So like if your thoughts are like writings in rock, like they sit there and stay for a long time. And if they're in sand, that's good and better than rock, but it's not as good as water because you have to wait until something comes and like washes them away. And being 19 and reading that on a road trip, I was like, whoa, my life is different now.
Yeah.
So now that you're out of social, you have an account now that is the skating account. Mm-hmm. How do you maintain a level of distance from those pieces of work? How do you detach from the results?
I mean, so yeah, first off, I never promoted the skate account. Mm-hmm. The skate account is, for as far as most people know, on the other account is under the radar. Yeah. And some people actually did go over to that account. They managed to find me. If you're one of those people, shout out to you. But first off, I never wanted to be a pro skater. Yeah. So that's kind of how I maintain that distance, and how I reduce my obsession with being on the platform, because I don't have these crazy ambitions to be a sponsored skater. Yeah. It's just purely a hobby.
Yeah. So, dude, I think one thing that my generation, the millennials, have not figured out is how to do something for fun, how to just do something without trying to monetize it. Like everyone my age that is in the tech world at all are doing anything like freelancing or creative, and I fall victim to this all the time. It's like everything I do has to like be monetized in some way. So kudos to you for figuring that out. You've got a good head on your shoulders.
I appreciate it. And I'm glad I learned all this stuff so early. I'm 22, and I know a lot of people my age who are just wasting their time trying to become something that they can't be. I know that sounds horrible, but, they're trying to become Instagram influencers or whatever, and it's just sad. Yeah. I always tell them, like, hey, look, I've been there. It's not the answer.
Yeah. Do people really believe you now?
No. Nobody listens to me.
Well, if you're talking to someone like at a party or socially on campus and they don't know you already, and you're like, I had this account with this many followers and I said fuck it and deleted it. Do people believe you, or do they think you're full of shit?
Well, I've never really brought it up unless it comes up. I'm pretty quiet about it.
Yeah. Well, good. You're a humble person.
Yeah. I am very humble. But, even like when I had the account, people would come up to me and they would be like, "Oh my God, I use a curious way," and I'm just like, dude, I'm a normal person. Just talk to me like, yeah.
Yeah. That's honestly, I've been around people that are like A-level celebrities and like musicians and stuff, and they tend to, most of them, some of them are assholes, but everyone's a person, but most people tend to like you just being normal instead of being like, oh my God. It's like very awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not saying that I was famous on any level, but I kind of understand celebrities now when they're assholes. Like when celebrities are assholes with people coming up to them, I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah. It's like I'm just trying to buy like potatoes or something.
Yeah.
I totally get not wanting to be interrupted when you're living your life. And dude, my kids are so obsessed with metrics and numbers, and they're like, how many likes did it get and all this? I'm like, you guys, there's a ghost in here. Oh. I've been telling the kids the house is haunted because now that we're moving, I'm like, I don't care if they're scared for a couple months.
Well, the roof just fell out of nowhere.
That was crazy.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Did you get like any sort of refund or?
No. We are going. If you're listening to this and you don't know me, at 3 a.m. my ceiling collapsed a few weeks ago, and I made a bunch of videos on Instagram about it. So that's what we're talking about. I had a faulty HVAC pipe, and we didn't know that it was a faulty HVAC pipe. What happened was we were in my office, and my fiance said, please tell me you spilled coffee earlier today. And I said, why? And she's like, well, because it looks like there's a coffee stain on the ceiling. So I got up on this chair, actually, and I poked it, and I was like, that's a lot of water. Oh. And since I'd been like remodeling my office, and I used to, where you're sitting behind you is where my desk was. It was like very obtrusive and disgusting looking with all the cords and wires and cameras laying out if I'm currently working. So I was like moving stuff to the office and taking photos. So I could see in a photo from a week earlier that there was no stain on the ceiling. So like rapid water like had come into our house. A rapid collection of water had been built. And we went to sleep that night, and our pillow talk was, do we think the ceiling's going to collapse? Yes or no? I don't know. Maybe we should get the stuff. We went to bed because I was like, there's no way. I just noticed it. There's no way it's going to fall in. And we woke up at 3 a.m. with my son running into the room, yelling, "Dad, the ceiling or the roof fell on all your stuff."
Oh God.
And so we slept in the house the next day. And then my fiance's dad, so my father-in-law, is a general contractor. He came over and noticed the pipe on the HVAC was broken, meaning that like carbon monoxide and like all these noxious fumes were being pumped into our house.
So that probably happened before the ceiling fell.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure. We just got a new HVAC that we paid like, thousands upon thousands of dollars for, which we do all right, but like that was a very nerve-wracking time to be like, we have to get heat and air, so let's spend this money and do all this. And they came out, the company did, and what we think happened is when they were putting in the new system, they Jimmy loosened the pipe going out of the new HVAC, and then they broke it, and then those fumes were just like pumping into our attic, collecting moisture, like it was a bunch of condensation.
That's
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah. The company is saying that it's not their fault, so we have a lawyer.
Yeah, that's their
And-
fault. That's
Yeah, it sucks. It's a horrible thing to go through, and I've jokingly said something about the American dream a few times, and systems are great. I'm not like anti-government or anti-establishment, but when I'm talking to somebody and there's 10 levels between me and the person that owns the company, everyone's just trying not to get fired when you talk to them. So to like get anything actually solved is a nightmare.
yeah.
Yeah, like I love freelancing for that reason. I'm usually talking to the owner of the company or the person whose business it is, and because I'm like working on my own, like I tend to do things that are smaller budget. Like it's good money, still way better money than I was making in a restaurant, but it's not like big commercials where there's like a whole crew. So like I can like look at someone and say, I'm going to work with you, and we're going to try to sell more hot sauce for you or whatever it is.
Right.
And it's super personal. Like you don't really get that in a lot of areas of life, especially if you're like doing anything with the government. Like everyone's just trying not to get fired. It's crazy. So the house is haunted. Well, I noticed I went to go do research on you, and you deleted your account with all the followers. But I saw you hadn't posted on YouTube in like a month, and I'm wondering if you have.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, it's not a big deal. You said you're living your life. I'm like wondering, are you afraid of like having like success and like blowing up again, or do you want that to happen but just like under different terms?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really afraid of anything at this point when it comes to that. I mean, yeah, if another video blows up, it is what it is. Yeah, there's not much I can do about that.
Yeah.
But as far as, feeding into it, definitely I want it to be on different terms. I want it to be something that I genuinely care about. Or at least the overall message I want it to be more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't words are coming up short.
You
You see what I'm trying to say,
Yeah,
right?
like more than a gimmick or whatever. Like a lot of what you're doing were like camera transitions and stuff.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I want it to be more meaningful than that.
Yeah.
Not just like, oh, look at these cool trendy transitions.
Yeah. You sound like if I had to guess, it sounds like you're like leaning towards doing more like documentary stuff. Maybe?
Yeah, more narrative, more stories, more meaningful content in general.
Yeah.
And I've been working on a lot of videos. And obviously, I haven't really told anyone because I've been off social media.
Yeah.
But I think a big overall message that I really want to convey in my videos is mental clarity, because I think that's something that a lot of people need right now, especially creatives.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, dude, one of the things when I quit using social media on my main phone was the amount of time I had to think and process stuff. And I started doing more research into like what's going on in your brain and like why do people think that anxiety numbers are going up because of like the correlation with social media. And there's a syndrome called solitude deprivation syndrome. Yeah, solitude deprivation syndrome. And what it means is that we used to have like all these moments in our day where you didn't take information in. And now, like you're saying more than ever, people they're never bored. You never have any downtime. The second you have to wait in line somewhere or whatever, you're like checking your phone. People go to the woods, and instead of just like walking through the woods, they have input devices in. And when your brain is constantly in input mode, you're like on high alert, kind of like how our ancient ancestors were like walking around, like looking, like, checking out the Serengeti to make sure there was like no predators around or whatever. So mental clarity is huge. Do you practice meditation? What do you do for mental clarity for yourself?
I get off social media.
Yeah.
Well, I do. I do kind of sit there and just close my eyes a lot.
Yeah.
I'll just be like wherever I am, and I'll be with friends and family, and I'm just like sitting there with my eyes closed, and they're like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine."
That's
Like,
awesome.
it's so foreign to them. Like, why is he okay? He's not talking. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm meditating. Don't talk to me.
That's funny. Do you have like a self-care thing? I know it's like such a trendy thing to say, like I do this, or this is my self-care routine, this is my morning routine. But do you have anything like that? I think they're popular for a reason. But do you have something that you're consistently doing to like maintain your mental health?
Yeah, so I wake up at 4 a.m. every morning and I drive my Lamborghini to the gym.
Yeah.
And then no, just kidding.
And then you read a book like the title.
And then I read a book.
Yeah.
And then I take 5 showers.
Yeah.
No.
If you read a book a day, you can have all of this stuff. It's like, all right.
Yeah. No, honestly, I just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
Like I said, like Buddhism and the way you live. I mean, I think anyone can learn from Buddhism, really. Like, you don't have to be a Buddhist to really embrace the philosophy. It's just, they can make anyone a happier person.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I think people are starting to come around more to the concept of like learning from other religions and applying it to your life. I grew up in a really small farm town, so I don't know if like all of life was like this, but I know if I would have said that I was into Buddhism in high school, people have been like, "You're an antichrist."
Right.
I was like, "Well, no, I'm just learning things."
Yeah.
But I completely agree with you. A lot of like the early like rudimentary teachings of the Buddhism like have like had a huge impact on my life, and I like even with our kids, like we tell them to meditate, and we intentionally like carve out times in their life where they're practicing different things, and they're not constantly being consumed by TikTok, and it's crazy.
TikTok is horrible. I've never even messed with TikTok.
Yeah.
No.
That would have been the next logical step for you. Your content was very TikTok-esque.
Yeah, and if somebody was in my shoes and they were able to take it to the next level, good for them.
Yeah.
As long as they don't hate their life.
Yeah.
And I see people who make the content like I do.
Yeah.
That are happy with their lives.
Yeah.
Good for them. I'm not trying to make, what I do sound bad. It's just it wasn't for me,
Yeah.
And I recognize that.
That's a very non-judgmental way to look at things. I think when I was 22, I was way more judgmental of everyone around me, and was probably just because I was like jealous or insecure about their success compared to my lack of success. So have you always been able to look at other people's success objectively, or do you think you have a new perspective on that from having the success of what other people, especially like in our industry, people that do like stuff with like cameras? Do you think
it's I when I see somebody, when things go somebody's way, I don't judge. I just say good for them.
Yeah. Awesome.
People are like, so many people judge. Like a lot of people who have nothing, they're like, oh, that's stupid. Like that's dumb. Like why would I watch? Like if you have a problem with it, just don't consume that content.
Yeah.
And I see this a lot in the skate community too. If somebody has like a really specific style of skateboarding, other people tend to be really gatekeepy, and they're like, oh, it's not, a kickflip would have looked better in that in that part or whatever. Like everywhere you go, there's so many gatekeepers that are just trying to make it difficult for everybody. And that's really frustrating.
It is frustrating. That's interesting that you're diving into the skating community now. Were you a part of that before the Curious Asian skate?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, because I would go to the skate park, and yeah, I just have a very, I do it for fun, like I said, and I have a unique set of tricks that I like to do that other people don't do, and people laugh. That's cool. I don't give a shit. But when people are like, that's dumb, or like when they have a problem with it or whatever, or like if I post a video and I place my foot on the ground, like like old school tricks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Foot planting is
Yeah.
more common.
Yeah.
People have a problem with that. They're like, oh, I bet you couldn't like do that flip without taking your foot off the board. And I was like, why does it fucking matter? Like
I would be willing to bet that a lot of those people like haven't attained the success that they would want, and they view you having a good time as like encroaching upon like them, and like if you are having a good time and you're not doing it the way they are, then they have to question themselves. It's so interesting. Like one of the biggest things I changed in my life for like my own mental clarity was being genuinely happy for other people. And it's a quick thing, and it does take practice, like especially if you have like that negative voice, but to look at someone who has success and instead of like immediately critiquing and breaking them down, if you can just train yourself to say, awesome, good for them. It really is like such a simple thing, but it's revolutionary if you've never done it.
And it makes you a so much more happy. It makes you a happier person.
Yeah.
Like, man, being a hateful person is just a miserable way to live. I think.
And it's a practice. I think if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I do tend to judge people sometimes. I think that you would benefit from hearing this, because I would have benefited from hearing this, and I did from a lot of people. But if you're a negative person and you just slowly train yourself to be more positive, it's weird. Like we feel such resistance to changing. So it's so awesome that you did what you did, but there's such a resistance to changing anything in your life, even if it's something that's bad, right? Mm-hmm. It's so crazy that people are wired to do that.
The world's constantly changing. And I've seen a lot of this recently with a lot of TikTok stars have been going into Hollywood and becoming actors. Mm-hmm. And that's created some controversy. A lot of people are like, oh, they skipped all the hard work and they went straight to Hollywood from TikTok. And I'm like, those people who did that are playing the game. Yeah. They're innovators. You got to give credit to them for being a marketing genius. Yeah. Even regardless of your stance on the social media platform.
Yeah, for sure.
I hate TikTok, but kudos to those kids for making a living out of it. I mean,
yeah, there's some Indianapolis filmmakers, and by filmmakers I mean there's one I can think of, and they do great work, and I'll tell you off air who it is. But I see them do this great work, but they have this like real judgmental air to them. And I would imagine this person's worked very hard to get where they are. And they're like, everything they do is like a full-on production, and it's a full-on shoot, like a large budget. But I've seen in their stories a few times, well, like they'll be out in the wild, like on the streets and like the urban landscape of Indianapolis, and they'll see people filming using their like flip out viewfinder screen, and like they're talking trash about them not having monitors. Like, what is wrong with you?
That's just dumb. I mean, that's right. That's insecurity at its best.
I know, it is so crazy. And honestly, I
here in Indianapolis,
yeah.
And people in the Indianapolis film industry wonder why everybody leaves and goes to LA.
Yeah,
like because of that. Like.
Well, the production is like it's still like based out of LA, New York, and like Atlanta now. But yeah, that is funny. Yeah, I think people in the Midwest, and I've lived all around. There is more of a chip on people's shoulders in the Midwest, and I would imagine because you already like are in like a low value market or whatever, and it doesn't mean anything. Like you can make film wherever you're at, but you're like already fighting against like these big like markets. Mm-hmm. So like if you have any kind of success, like you still like have people that like don't view you as a real professional because you're not like in an industry city. But there's opportunity everywhere, and also I started leaning into the fact that I don't have a crew, and I've started calling myself like a solo filmmaker on LinkedIn, and I advertise that, and I talk to people and say, I'm the only one that does this, which has a big impact on you and your bottom line and your budget. So it's like the more that you can own the things that are unique to you, I think the quicker you can get to like a place of success. It's crazy. Peter McKinnon just did this like car commercial and was talking about how people are kind of giving him flack for being just a YouTuber. Did you see that video?
Yeah, the Hyundai
Yeah.
commercial, I think it was.
Yeah, and then he released a video after that. It's like just a YouTuber. But the landscape's constantly changing. Like you're not doing yourself any favors by like critiquing someone and saying they shouldn't have success. You should be curious about it. You should be like, oh, that's awesome. Why is that working? And then dive into it with like an open mind versus being super negative about it. Mm-hmm. I think so anyway.
For sure. Good stuff. Good stuff.
It's crazy, man. Going back to the Buddhist philosophies, have you heard the parable of it's like the candle where you can light a candle with, you can light 1,000 candles with the flame of one candle without losing or diminishing the flame of the original candle. Mm-hmm. It's like the same thing in the film world. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are clout chasers in the film community, but as soon as if somebody a smaller person does something, it's not cool. But as soon as somebody that's bigger does it, it's
yeah,
it's cool.
Or something's ridiculous, like your skate account. People talk trash to you, but if you took your skate account to the numbers that your other account was, and people saw you doing that, everyone would go back to old school skating. Not everyone, but a lot of people would.
Yeah, old school skating is actually starting to pick up.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've been on that world, but it's starting to pick up. People are starting to put rail guards in their skateboards again, and
what are rail guards?
The little plastic things that you put on the bottom of your deck. Those were really big back in the day.
So you could lift up the board.
So you can grind pretty much anything with them, and it's easier to grab. Yeah, it's just a trendy thing that kind of is just coming back for some reason.
Yeah,
shape boards are coming back. Which is cool.
Yeah. Do you have any? That's awesome. Do you
just
have
not to get off topic or anything?
No, it's all good. We can talk about whatever. And I'm interested in the thing that you're passionate about. Are you planning on trying to build out the new account, the skate account? Do you want to grow that? Do you?
I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
I haven't really tried. But I think if I wanted to, I definitely could. I would have to really push myself. I'd have to learn a lot more to really keep the audience engaged. But
yeah,
I'd be down for it.
It's old school skate films, man. I think if you just took your video knowledge and what you knew and apply that to I don't know, a few sessions. Because I don't know if I imagine skate films are more of a thing now than ever, right?
Oh yeah, with social media, clips are just appearing left and right.
Yeah,
and it's also the skate industry, as far as trying to go pro, has become a lot more competitive because back in the day, obviously you had to hire a video crew to film you whatever parts you had, hey, I have this sick line, I'm gonna pay you to film it. But now it's everybody has a phone. A lot of the talented skaters who originally went unnoticed are now just out there.
And so back to the thing of not being jealous of other people's success and being happy for other people. When you're in a competitive market, it's really easy to be really negative because you're why is that person successful or this or that, or they just got lucky. But if you embrace someone else's success, the path to getting better is much more clear, because if you see someone that has success and you're I want to align with that person and good for them versus being negative for them, you're not going to get any better. And when you have a big community like that, typically what happens is everyone around you gets better and the competition gets more stiff, but that just means that you're going to be better. That means your suck is going to be significantly better than your suck would have been before phones were around, right?
Yeah. Yeah, my laptop is pretty bad too.
Yeah.
But I shoot in 4K and I just deal with all the consequences. I press one, one thing and make one adjustment, and then I just sit back.
You were saying you're a slow editor earlier?
Yeah, and it's mainly because of the processing power that's required.
That's funny. So why are you stuck in 4K then? Why don't you just do the 1080p game or take your 1080p, film in 1080p and then drop it onto a 4K timeline and trick the YouTube resolution compression machine?
Good question. I don't know. Good question. I don't know why. I like to punch into my face every once in a while.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's the only reason.
That's the only reason I can think of, honestly. Unless I was filming something where it was gonna be on a huge teleprompter or something, and then I would tell the client I'd have to rent cinema gear and stuff too. But,
but I shot a short film on a Blackmagic, 4.6K. It was the Ursa Pro G2, 4.6K RAW, and man, that was a nightmare.
Yeah, I can imagine.
On the laptop that I had.
Was that with a cowboy, Cory?
Yeah.
Okay,
and I've worked on a couple of my own projects with, by myself. But yeah, we work a lot together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You said that you were doing like Lego stop motion films. So are your parents and everyone like they're like full on? They're like they get it. They're like Alex is going to be a filmmaker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Supportive or not, they know that's what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
My so I have family in the United States because my mom remarried an American guy. So my family here is very, very supportive. I did kind of have some, faced a little bit of controversy over in Taiwan.
Yeah.
Because of going into the art industry and not wanting to, go into the medical industry. It's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, they were like, but they're supportive now.
Yeah.
Because I have stuff to show for now, and they get it. They're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I faced a lot of that when I got that camera over there, the T6i, and I was like, I'm gonna make films for people, and my family's like, what? Why? You had a good job. I was like, I was a bartender. It was a terrible job, but now they're starting to get it. People are like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Especially because I've had clients that have shared stuff of mine, like on a website or like wherever. People are like, oh, okay, you did that for them.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Like I think that anytime you want to go and do something where you break the norm, there's like a lot of resistance. A lot of people naysay. They're like, I don't know. That sounds dangerous.
You just gotta prove them wrong.
Yeah.
When I bought my first camera, I spent my college savings on it. Like I bought the A6300 and dropped about $2,000 on that and like 2 lenses. And I just remember my mom being like, "What the fuck?" Like,
Yeah.
yeah, because that was for college. It was for my textbooks and
Yeah.
it was my open house money that I got.
It's good. Yeah, but
No,
look at you now.
I was like, no, mom, just watch. I'm gonna freelance, and it's gonna work out, and it didn't really work out all
Yeah.
that well.
Yeah, but you're
Let's-
committed to it.
Let's be real. It took a while, but yeah, finally, yeah.
Yeah, it took a while for me too. I remember for almost a year when I was like still learning how to do things, and I thought I wanted to be like a real estate photographer because I thought it'd be easy. Then I got into the industry, and I sucked at it. Thank God I sucked at it, because if I would have been good at it, I would have kept doing it. But I also realized, I was like, I don't like working in houses by myself around nobody, and no one really cares. They just want me to work as quickly as possible. But that first year, I thought, I am never going to get a client. I'm like, I filmed like a cell phone, like on a cell phone for my fiance's doctor's office. And they're like, we love that. We'll pay you to make another video. And then I got my camera, and I was like, this is such a bad idea. I got so scared. And now, like, I'm busy sometimes, and it's so crazy. It takes so long. It does. And it feels like forever when you're in it. And I think for me personally, like, I just want to hold on to that perspective. And, like, whenever things are stressful with work I'm doing now, I'm like, I created this for myself, so I should love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
It's like with Instagram, what you're saying, we're talking about Tim Ferriss talking about building a machine that can be like a prison cell for yourself. It's like you got to be like really mindful of that, because when you put into work, we put work into something, it doesn't always work, but a lot of times it will. So like understanding why you're doing whatever you are, or like who you're doing it for, is huge. Like if you're just doing it for fame or whatever, and that's all you care about is numbers, you can get famous for a lot of different things and for a lot of different reasons. So you should really, like, I think, identify, like, why exactly do I need people to be watching what I'm doing?
And I never thought about that.
Yeah.
It just, yeah.
But
Shit-
you are now.
Shit just kind of happened. Yeah.
Like, I think you're really fortunate. I think it's a lot of people, especially kids or teenagers, that, like, get real popular, and they don't stop to think about it for a long time. I guess the best example of that I can think of is Macaulay Culkin, He grew up in, like, it's got to be a weird existence. So good for you for having the clarity and the foresight.
Yeah, and now my goal is, my aim is really to just inform people, my age, and really tell them, like, get to them, like, hey, look, this is not the answer. Like, honestly.
Yeah.
'Cause I have so many content creator friends that are just trying so hard to be, like, big,
Yeah.
and for what?
Yeah, exactly. I think,
If and a lot of them, their content's good. They'll post pictures of themselves, like traveling the world or whatever. But like, there's no message. There's no like blanket story that they're trying to tell. It's just like,
yeah.
For what? Like,
How do you get there? How do you get to the point where you're telling this story and the message? Like, I have my thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts. And like, how do you create meaning? Like, what do you do to bring that to your work?
Well, I think for a lot of people, I think the biggest one is definitely bringing value, or at least bringing some sort of like relating to your audience in some way. Like maybe if you're like a traveler, maybe if you were a traveler that had like a prosthetic leg,
Yeah.
and that was like your brand. Like, hey, I travel. This is how I do it with a prosthetic leg.
Yeah.
That's or like, hey, I cook all my meals at home, but I'm vegan.
Yeah.
Like that one, like what's that one thing that like makes you different or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, for sure. And you said the prosthetic leg. I've not written a book, and I want to. And the only thing I've written so far is like a beginning where I'm thinking I want to talk to my kids. I'm going to die one day. Like it's a thing I deal with. We all have to deal with. And I practice a little bit of stoicism, Stoic philosophy. And there's a saying that's in memento mori, which means remember you must die. So I'm thinking about that. I'm like, okay, what's it like a gift? Like what's it like a value prop? And having something for my children to read when I'm gone is a huge one. And when I was just sitting thinking, like, what's the most important thing I can tell them? And it was exactly what you're just saying. It's like, think about what you have that's unique to you. And when you get to something that you can no longer change about yourself, like that's something that's super unique. And that's what you should focus on because that's like your real strength. There's a lot of things in your life that you're going to want to change that you either have the control to change, so you should go and do it, or things that you cannot control and you can't change, so accept those. And if it's something about you, like you can't change your ethnicity, I can't change my ethnicity, I can't change how handsome I am.
Yeah.
But those are things that are unique to you. And those are like a lot of people, I think, when they're growing up, I'm seeing it with my kids, like they're so insecure about the shit that like they can't control. Like their jawline isn't like this person's or whatever. But it's like, God damn it, those are the most valuable things. And a lot of people go their whole life and don't
How old are they?
realize that. They're 11 and 12.
Well, that's crazy. Because like when I was in 12, I didn't give a shit about what I looked like.
Yeah.
I would go to school and then I would come home and I would play Minecraft.
Yeah. I don't think I cared either.
I didn't have social media.
Yeah.
I didn't have a phone.
Dude, I think that's a huge thing. Like a lot of like doing this and comparing themselves to other people. I can't imagine if I would have had social media when I was 12. Ugh.
I can't like fathom that. Like it's just wild to me. Like
Yeah. We're also boys. My son cares a little bit about how he looks now, but he can very quickly go back to not caring. My daughter is definitely like really like into like looking a certain way. This morning she said she didn't want to wear a coat because it made her look boxy, and I'm like, oh my God. It's so interesting. So creating value.
and you've talked about that a lot on your channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, just don't waste the viewers' time.
Yeah, and respect it too. Like if anyone is showing up, like you had before you blew up, you talked about community and how much you valued the people that were there, and like it was fun to you and you interacted with people. And I'd argue like that's a recipe for success. If you have 200 people following you, that's actually a lot of people. If 200 people showed up to your house, you'd be like, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Right? So like if you don't take time to acknowledge those people and to be grateful that they're there, giving you time from their life, you kind of suck. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thank you for pointing that out. I do talk about that a lot. I want to talk about this more, the concept of like finding your value, and instead of like asking yourself why, ask yourself who. Like who can I do something for? Right. And when we're on one of these breaks and you're seeing a lot of people are just trying to make it and they're overlooking like the important thing. And what I think you're alluding to is community. Like, is that what you were getting to?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So community is like, in my opinion, the most important thing, and it should be cultivated.
Back to content creation itself, you kind of mentioned, the importance of really making content that's unique to you, and I think that's the best way to go about it. If you want to be a content creator, sticking to content that's relatable to yourself and that's based off of factors that pertain to your life, that's the best way to go about it, and that's the best way to really keep yourself passionate, because you would never really grow out of it. Such as the prosthetic leg example, that's like just part of your life. Yeah. It's like, yeah.
I guess you'd grow out of it if you were a kid with a prosthetic leg.
Yeah, true. But you'll get a bigger prosthetic leg, right?
Yeah. No, but
if your leg grows back, then that's a different.
dude, that is 100%. Like that's what I'm doing with this. I'm like, I could get busier with it, and I could have it like every week, and I could have like a team, and it can get built out. But I know for a fact that I want to have people that I respect. You're one of them. I want them to come to my home or meet me somewhere or to a studio at least twice a month and to hang out for an hour. Like I don't think I will get sick of that. I don't think I'll get sick of talking to people who I respect. And I think that is a huge thing to think about when you're trying to make it as a creative professional. Like, what are you not going to get sick of? What's something that's unique to you? Like, if you're sharing your perspective or sharing what you're learning, like, in your day-to-day life, that's so important. Like, there's no reason, and it's actually a very, like, counterintuitive to the process by, like, trying to, like, be something you're not.
I think this is why a lot of channels that focus strictly on mental clarity do so well. And that's why the creators themselves are able to just keep, going, because it's just mental health is just something that affects us every day, every second of our life. So there's constantly motivation to be found usually.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing thing too. Like I was talking about the practice of like being hateful and the practice of like having gratitude. Like both of those things are a practice. Everything you do is a practice. Like if you're an alcoholic, you've practiced drinking. If you're a runner, you practice running. If you're someone that's grateful, like that's a thing you work on. So there is like a constant like source of inspiration in the self-help. So when are you going to start your self-help channel?
Soon. I've been thinking about it. So basically, I want to keep it the same channel as Curious Equation channel, but the content's obviously going to be a 180. But yeah, I really just want to focus more on my thoughts and just being honest and straight up. It'll be more of a big think channel, but it'll still be like artistic. You know what I mean? Like I still want to have like aspects of cinematography in it. But
your last video that you did, I think one of the last couple ones you did, and it was you moving around, and you had a camera, and you had like I know you had a mic taped to the back of the chair, and I can't remember.
It's like a video of my notebook or something.
Yeah, you're talking about the most important piece of filmmaking gear you own is your notebook. Is that something that's more true to you?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'll link that in the description of this video. So, okay, stuff like that's great. Like, that's, like, in the realm of productivity, too. But I know it's part of the motivation for this conversation here and me doing the work that I've done on social media and with my cameras and, like, the films I'm trying to make. It came from me being in a super dark place and seeing people like Gary Vaynerchuk or, like, the bald guy that's, like, a self-help dude, Big Think or something like that.
Big Think? Bigger. What's his name?
Bigger
New Ideas.
Great idea, something like that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
He's the Joey Schweitzler. He's got like 1 million followers. He's like in the Matt D'Avella and Thomas Frick. Yeah. People like that literally saved my life. Like hearing them talking about how they get through a day and how they do work. I was like, okay, I can do all that stuff. And it took a while for me to like crawl out of that cave, but that's awesome. Like maybe you can save someone's life teaching them how to like do whip transitions and like cutting to the beat or whatever.
Well, hopefully I'm saving people's life by telling them that social media is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Well, not always. Take that with a grain of salt if you're watching this, but
yeah. So I showed you a little bit of a client video before we sat down and talked, and the only reason I got that job was because the client had posted onto their Instagram stories saying, "I'm doing this speech. Who's a videographer I can hire?" So I called him and was like, "I would love to work with you," but I only got that job because I saw the post in a story. So that's kind of like where I'm at with social media. Like that's the problem for me. I'm like, okay, I know I've gotten work because of it. I also put in time and I've met this person in real life. I don't know how to balance it because it creates a lot of anxiety in my life. The only way I've been able to figure it out is just by like removing it from my phone and like having it like it's on like a shitty old iPhone and I check it like every other day. Do you have your skate account? Do you check social? Do you get on and scroll? Like what does your relationship with it look like right now?
It's mainly for personal. Like I like to see what my friends, I like to see what they're up to.
Yeah.
That's about it. Friends, family. I don't go on social media anymore in search of inspiration.
Okay.
And I've never really been that way. Usually when I go on YouTube or Instagram, I'm purely on there to consume.
Yeah.
Because I think going on the internet in search of inspiration is a forceful way to get ideas.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying.
No, I get what you're saying completely. Like for me, ideation kind of begats search results, which turns into a project for me now, where it used to be me thinking, will someone watch this video if I make it and I structure it this way? But me feeling panicked a few weeks ago, and then checking my phone and then being honest with myself, like noticing my habit loop. I was like, okay, I feel bad. And then I check my phone and I look at stuff and I go and like sometimes look at other people's numbers, which is naughty. I do that. I'll like look at someone else's numbers and like they'll be doing better than I am on something. And I was like perpetuating like this like self-loathing. So I was like, okay, this has to stop. And I started listening to a guy named Cal Newport and I took my phone away from me. But like the ideas, like you would think that like you're not going to have any ideas if you're not like constantly knowing what's going on. But I have so much more ideas over the course of the last month, not having social, like constantly. Like you're so bombarded by everyone else's like thoughts. And it's just like seconds of someone's thoughts too. It's so crazy.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, in addition, the numbers really just, because here's the thing, for me, I want to make it being a filmmaker, in whatever industry. Because, if I pitch any idea to an executive producer in LA, they're not going to give a shit if I have 70,000 followers.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are cats and hedgehogs on Instagram that have 2 million followers, and I highly doubt they're going to get put on as role as, director of photography for a feature film.
Yeah.
Numbers, clearly don't mean anything.
Yeah. That's interesting. When you had the following and you're just consumed with the numbers, what would make you feel the worst? I was thinking of you posting and waiting for a certain amount of performance. Is that something that would make you feel bad? Like expecting a certain amount of performance on each post because one would do well and...
Yeah, and that's kind of the big reason why it really affected my mental health, when I was in my prime, was because I blew up for one thing, and then once I got bored of that, my content took a complete 180, and I started posting other things, and obviously that stuff didn't perform as well, and I would, my analytics would be flooded with red, because the numbers were dropping, and that really got to me at first, and I was just like, like, I didn't know how to, because for the longest time it had just been going up, and then out of nowhere, just complete tank.
Dude,
And
even if it's like when you were talking about the tank, that was probably so much better than it was before you blew up or whatever. Just like the perspective there is interesting.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I wasn't putting things into perspective, and it made me really take for granted what I had, or what. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. I know 100% what you're saying, and it's unrealistic to think that everything's going to perform better. Like it's gotta be. That's finite. There's also have you heard of the hedonic treadmill?
No.
So it's like the perpetual loop that humans are in, and it's a psychological trap. It's like a treadmill, like you're just running in place. But the hedonic treadmill is our ability to very quickly adapt to change in our life. Even though there's a resistance to change, once something changes, you get very used to the new way things are. So if you go from having an account with 100 followers and you get 10 likes, that's awesome. And then a post does well, and then you all of a sudden have 10,000 followers. Now when you get like 500 likes, that's not as good as the 700 you got the week before. Like you very quickly adapt to that. So like
right, because you're just constantly wanting more. It's human nature to crave more. It's how we grow.
Yeah, and the same goes the opposite way too. Like if you go from being super wealthy or you have something catastrophic happen, you like very quickly get used to that. So that's why it's like hard for sometimes. For people to advance in their life. Like I got very used to making $400 a week and feeding my son and my friend that was helping watch him. Like I got used to that life and I stopped trying to better myself for a while. And that's kind of like why I fell into like such a dark hole. But like it just felt completely normal to me to be like, you've got $20 deep for the next 4 days. Let's go for it. Like feed everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perspective is huge. What do you do to give yourself perspective in your life? You said you don't have a daily practice, but do you have like a mental game that you play with yourself, or is there like a quote or something you go to?
Not really. I mean, well, yeah, I guess the biggest thing that I really try to remember is just why I got started in the first place. And that's purely because it was a hobby, something that made me happy, you know.
Yeah.
It was nothing more than that.
Yeah.
And that's what I use to drive myself every day. You know, I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah.
Nobody else.
That's good, man. It's a good reminder to remind yourself why you started, and also like if it was fun for you, and then you get to make money from it as well. That's just like an added bonus. I try to do that. I get like real like caught up in like I've got to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to grow clients by this much this year or whatever. And I had a moment on set where I was at the cabaret last month, and I was like setting up lights, and I looked around. I was like, this is actually pretty awesome. Like I should be having fun right now. So I want to do that more often in my life. I hope you do too.
Yeah, I hope I do, and I hope you do.
Yeah.
I wish you the best of luck. It's a brutal world. Being an artist is,
It's hard.
and I don't know I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. And it's hard enough anyway. So like why make it even harder by doing all these like negative like thought patterns and like being mad at other people's success and like being so hard on yourself? Why would you make something that's already hard even harder?
exactly.
Yeah, man.
Exactly.
Well, I think we're gonna wrap it up. And thank you for being here so much.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome, dude. The pleasure is all mine. There'll be links and show notes to like places where people can find you if you want people to find you.
Yeah. I'm kind of hiding in the shadows right now. But
Yeah.
I'll probably come out from hibernation some point soon. We'll see.
Awesome.
see.
I'm interested to see what happens when you come back with Curious Wation and you're like, hey guys, fuck you. No more trendy camera tricks, and here's a documentary that I'm working on, and then you start the GoFundMe page. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Sounds
man.
like a plan.
Thank you so much.
No problem.